So is this shoe really only good for full marathons? Well, today I'm going to answer that question. So welcome back to another 100 mile review. Actually 105 to be specific, because 26.2 times by 4 is 104.8, and I wanted to tip it over that full marathon bracket that On say that this shoe is at its peak for. I want to give you that feedback today. As with all 100 mile reviews, I want to share with you guys the wear and tear on the shoe, how I've been using it, and of course will I continue to use it moving forward, and then of course answer that question of, is it still any good, or am I feeling a dip in performance at this stage? So if you're excited for today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. Let's dive in to the wear and tear. Now, with all running shoes that I get to 100 miles, I do hope to not see too much going on with the shoe in terms of wear and tear, not too much degradation. Obviously, there is an exception with racing shoes because they're not designed to last as long as daily trainers. But I am pleased to say that this thing is holding up really well. You will have to excuse the dirtiness. I have just got it back from a really good run, which I will share with you shortly. But in terms of the wear and tear, if you have a look at the upper here, there is no snags, no frays, no tears. There are a couple of standout features with this shoe that I really want to share that I've been really impressed with over these 100 miles, and a couple of features that I have been a little bit disappointed with and have come to light the more I run in this shoe. But that's not for this section. The midsole is still looking really nice, but is it feeling good? Well, we'll get to that very shortly. But in terms of the wear and tear on the outsole, it's still looking really good. It's probably going to be quite difficult for you guys to see, but there really is no rubbing down on any of the sort of rubber, no kind of obvious wear marks, shall we say. Again, the toe off area, but that's standard in most shoes. Big chunk of mud in there from where I've just run in it. But yeah, overall, it's looking really smooth, really good, and still feeling as good as it did from 0 miles. So how have I been using this shoe? Well, I've been using it a lot, every single week in fact. Let me share with you exactly how. So at the beginning of January, I kind of selected about 5 or 6 pairs of shoes that I felt really worked for me, that I wanted to take through January. I'm in a marathon training block for London right now, and what's key when you're marathon training is to find shoes that work for you and kind of stick to it. Now, for me, obviously, I'm very lucky. I do get to review shoes on the channel. I do get shoes sent to me, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But what I try and do in these marathon training blocks is really lock into the shoes. I kind of test the ones that come in, and then if it's kind of one that I'm really not too sure about, or I'm really working well with other shoes, then I will stick with those other ones. And those ones will get parked for the moment until such time as I feel ready to bring them into the rotation. And I've had a really trusty rotation this month, and this thing has been taking a lot of the what I call concrete workout miles. I say that because I've had 2 workouts a week, one of which is out on the tarmac, nice, flat and fast. The other is out on the trails where I'm doing tempo work, and I'm deciding to use the rolling trails for strength building. So I am splitting the workouts, 1 concrete, flat, 1 out on the trails. This has had the concrete work, but as you can see, it is a little bit muddy because I took it out on a really good long run workout. This had the first marathon long run workout of the block, 3 miles steady, 10 by 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off. Over and under marathon pace, and then 3 miles steady. I covered 16 miles in this shoe, and it was absolutely phenomenal, and that's what took me up to the 105 mile mark. But before that, it's been lots of shorter, sharper workouts, any reps ranging anywhere from sort of 1 minute all the way up to 6 minutes, some tempo stuff before maybe, but overall it's really taken that place of the shorter, sharper stuff out there on the tarmac. And overall, this shoe has been a joy to run in. So just before we get to the question, will I continue to use it moving forwards, there are 2 things positive and 2 things negative that I want to share with you about this shoe that I picked up over these last 100 miles. Number 1, I mentioned it in the first video, the laces, absolutely brilliant. Keep you locked in, little silicone beads on the laces to get a really good grip. But there is one thing that I will share. I'm wondering if I should maybe use these outer eyelets here and on here. I'll explain more in a second. The second thing is the midsole. Absolutely love it. It is indeed on the firmer end of the spectrum, but I do tend to prefer firmer shoes. The Brooks Hyperion Max, this one, they just work well for me, and I seem to get less injured when I use them. Softer shoes I can use in moderation, but I am finding, whether it's because I'm getting older or whatever it is, that I tend to maybe pick up some injuries or niggles more if the foam is softer. So I do prefer a firmer foam. On the negative, The one thing that I have really noticed is cornering in this shoe. The upper, although I get a really good lockdown here, because the sidewalls on the shoe are quite small, I do often find that my foot can sometimes lean out of the shoe. And I don't know if you can see here, it kind of like the shoe leans that way, and it can feel a little bit saggy at the back. So although this is locked in nicely over the top, this has a little bit too much wiggle room for my liking. And I have had a few instances when I've cornered, and I have sometimes felt like my foot might fall out of the shoe. The second thing is the narrowness of the shoe. So this comes in nearly a centimetre narrower than the Vaporfly 3. Now I like that. I would rather, for a race day option, be able to squeeze my foot into a shoe so it's a bit more streamlined. I'm not a massive fan of midsoles protruding out the side. And this one does a really good job of keeping it streamlined, and I'm happy with that from that perspective. You guys just have to bear in mind it is a bit narrower. But what that means, that combined with the firm midsole and the carbon plate, makes it quite stiff. And if you do land on something slightly unstable, whether it's a rock or whether it's a bit gravelly or whatever, your foot can wobble slightly. And again, I think that's exacerbated by the fact that the sidewalls on the shoe are slightly lower, and so there's not quite as much holding you secure at the back. You get this good lockdown here, but at the back it's a little bit sloppy. So that's the only thing I thought I would mention. 2 positives and 2 negatives. So will I continue using this shoe moving forward, and has it run its course after 4 marathons worth of miles? Well, yes, absolutely, I will continue to use it. It has been a dream throughout January, and I will continue to use it through February. I might switch it up to the Vaporfly 2, I should say, towards the end of the marathon training block, just for a bit more sharpness and for it to feel a little bit faster. My goal shoe for London is the Saucony Endorphin Elite at this stage, and I do not want to use that other than Barcelona half and London. I do not want to use that again because it's got about 77-ish miles in it. But for the moment, February, I'm pretty sure is going to see plenty more miles in this thing. And as for the full marathon malarkey, I feel like it can keep going and it still feels really good. I would still at this stage trust it for another marathon or 2 maybe. I mean, I'm just guessing here, but it's at this stage, it still feels really good. It still gives me back what I found it gave me in the beginning. And if I'm honest with you, even after 105 miles, I don't feel like there's been any deterioration in performance of the foam. It still feels like it did in the beginning, and I'm happy to report that if you invested in this shoe, I don't feel like it's going to wear out on you after those 4 marathons that On quoted. So there we go, those are my thoughts on the On Cloudboom Echo 3 after 105 miles, 4 marathons worth in the shoe. Holding up really well, holding up strong, couple of negatives, couple of positives, but overall slotting into my training rotation really well. So I'll fire the question back at you guys. Have you picked this shoe up? How many miles have you got in it? And if you've got over 100, please do comment below. Let everyone know how they're getting on for you. Are you noticing a deterioration in performance, or are they holding strong like they are for me? Do share that. It'd be great for people to read it, and then they can make more informed decisions on whether they want to get the shoe or not. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one.